Вашій увазі на
In 1895, a 16-year-old boy imagined a beam of light. This thought eventually changed the world forever. The boy's name was Albert Einstein. So what really was that thought? And how could one thought change the world so thoroughly? Well, in this video, we're discussing Einstein's theory of relativity and, more importantly, how he got there. Discussing classical physicist Sir Isaac Newton. In 1687, Newton published his book, Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy. In the book, he described his three laws of motion and the law of gravity. This book is considered one of the most important writings in the history of mankind. After watching an apple fall, he asked himself the question, if the apple falls, does the moon also fall? This question led him to discover the law of gravity. According to his law of gravitation, every object in the universe enacts its own force of attraction on another object. And this force is the reason why there is life on Earth, why the moon orbits the Earth, and indeed why the universe exists. But that didn't answer all of Newton's questions, like why do objects attract each other? What is the source of gravity? And why does Mercury's orbit jiggle? The rest remained a mystery until the era of Albert Einstein. In 1915, Einstein published his theory of general relativity, or in other words, his theory of gravity. In this theory, Einstein explains gravity and its source. He answered all the questions that Newton couldn't, like Mercury's precession. Let's take a step back to 1905 to truly grasp where these different pieces of the puzzle come to life. This year, Einstein published his theory of special relativity. It deals with the speed of light and the motion of objects. It was fine with non-accelerating objects, but the theory did not apply when gravity was present, or if the object was accelerating. He couldn't quite figure the rest out, until one fine day in 1907, he was observing a window washer on a ladder and had an epiphany. He thought about what he would be experiencing while falling. He imagined himself there and realized that while falling, the ground would not be pushing him, so he would be in a free fall. That put some of the pieces together, but still he wasn't fully finished. He began to think about falling again. This time he imagined himself in a room with no windows. On the surface of the Earth, you would weigh whatever you weigh now. But imagine if the room was in a spacecraft, moving in an upward direction with the same 9.8 meters per second squared as here on the ground. In that moment, if you were to weigh yourself, you would weigh the same as you do on Earth. Einstein realized that the observer would not be able to tell if he is on a spaceship or on the surface of the Earth. That is because he would be moving at the exact same rate of acceleration. There would be no way to tell the difference. This phenomenon is called the equivalence principle, which states that an object that is accelerating through its gravitational pull is essentially the same object that is stationary. In other words, something moving in space with no gravity has the same mass as something on Earth that is not moving. In his special theory of relativity, he could only deal with non-accelerating objects and the speed of light. Let's pause here for a second. This means that at that point, he knew how to unify his theory of special relativity with light.
Дуся, дела уже неплохо. Эй, земляк, быстрее не ходи, вот так наблюдай! Ну-ка, блядь, все сюда ко мне! Пацаны, да он там совсем... Куда побежал?
The height of the view was slightly lower than the other side. It curved the light and caused it to bend down. But this principle only applied in space. When he thought about the same experiment on Earth, the light would appear to be straight. Of course, these two scenarios only happen in his brain. Let's just take a brief moment to appreciate how brilliant he is to be able to conduct that experiment, all of that in his brain. Back to the topic. Einstein wasn't convinced though, as this violated the principle of equivalence. The acceleration of the room on the spaceship was the same as under the influence of gravity. The height should be the same in both cases. He realized that the only possibility could be that the light beam must be bending under the influence of gravity. But how could this be? What does this bending of light mean? Well, thanks to his incredible imagination and deep thinking, he came up with an answer. He considered that maybe the light was falling.
Time. A deceptively simple question, yet it is the key to understanding relativity. It is also the reason my hair is going gray. When we describe motion, we do so as a function of time. 10 meters per second, 100 miles per hour. We can define time. Time universal. In other words, is there an audible tick-tock throughout the galaxy? A master clock, so to speak, forging ahead like Mozart's metronome? The answer, my friends, is no. Time is not absolute. In fact, for us believing physicists, the distinction between the past, present, and future is but a stubborn illusion. A lot to consider, I know. But understanding time is essential to understand relativity. Now, I want you all to close your eyes. Not to worry, I don't bite. But I am on the lookout for a new pet. Close your eyes. Totally grasp the idea of time. You must take a step back and ask, what is light? Journey with me. Travels from the sun to the earth through space. I was your age, I wanted to know. How can something light travel through nothing space? Let us isolate a light beam. Travel along space. Let us go faster. Do we dare? Faster. Faster. What is time?
I wasn't sleeping, so I was thinking.
Really? About what exactly?
Secrets of the cosmos, I suppose.
I suppose.
great folly. This will be the first of 4 lectures. I will certainly be dubbed mad. By the last lecture, I will either have pain or will have been trampled by it. In such a way as to respect the transformations that they saw. Just do like that, swear. This equation. Never shows.
Professor Einstein?
Not quite yet. The beast is cowering, that's for sure.
intuition, and you should listen to it. I was in the FBI for 25 years. I developed an investigative tool called criminal profiling, and I'm going to teach you some of the tactics I've used from the people I've interviewed. You'll be learning how to spot these character traits in others. These are things that you can use in your everyday life. If you are reflecting a certain personality, it's repetitive, it's predictable. I'm John Douglas, and this is Masterclass.
Albert Einstein was so smart that scientists studied his brain after he died to figure out why. He was such an icon that Time magazine named him Person of the Century in 1999. But despite his fame, the world's best-known scientist had his secret. The FBI kept a clandestine file on him, and yet an This is the story of Albert Einstein in full. Einstein was born in Ulm, in southwestern Germany on March 13, 1979. The family moved to Munich just a few years after. When he was 5 years old, he fell ill one day. His father took him to class to cheer him up. Einstein was amazed that the needle always pointed to the magnetic north, no matter which way he turned the compass. In his autobiography, he recalled, "I can still remember how I used to believe that this experience made a deep and lasting impression upon me, something deeply hidden into the things." So began a lifelong fascination with physics. He later said if he hadn't become a physicist, he'd probably be a musician. He loved music, especially Mozart's symphonies. Unlike many geniuses, Einstein wasn't a child prodigy. He didn't speak full sentences until he was 5, according to his biographers. His parents were understandably worried, but when he got into school, Einstein came into it. His family was Jewish, but he attended a Catholic elementary school, where he excelled as a student. There was a rumor going around that he flunked math, but to the contrary, Einstein said that he had already mastered differential and integral calculus before the age of 15. For a while, his father Herman ran a small electrochemical plant, but he struggled to keep it going. Eventually, he moved his family to Italy in the hopes of finding new opportunities. Young Albert stayed behind to finish high school, but he hated school, and his success depended on memorization and obeying authority. He was a rebel, and apparently threw temper tantrums. One exasperated teacher even said he would never amount to anything. Einstein dropped out at age 15. He also renounced his German citizenship, which got him out of mandatory military service. For a few years, he belonged to no country and loathed nationalism, preferring to be a citizen of the world. When he did eventually become a citizen again, it was Swiss. When he moved to Switzerland, he tried to get admitted to the prestigious Swiss Federal Institute of Technology. He did well in the math and physics section of the entrance exam, but is said to have done horribly in language, zoology, and botany. It didn't help that the exam was in French, so he didn't get in, and instead continued his high school studies. He was a good student, scoring the highest possible grade of 6 in many subjects, including math and physics. With this under his belt, he was automatically admitted to the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, where he had originally flunked the entrance exam. He enrolled in a 4-year teaching program in math and physics. That's where he met his future wife, Mileva Maric, the only female student in his physics class. Einstein's private letters, discovered in the 80s, caused a sensation because they revealed the couple had a child out of wedlock, a daughter named Liesl. According to their correspondence, Liesl was born in 1902, a year before her parents married. She was cared for by her mother while staying with her family in the native Serbia, while Einstein worked in Switzerland. Maric would later join Einstein without the child. It's unclear what happened to their daughter. Historians believe she either died in infancy, probably from scarring, or was given up for adoption. Maric and Einstein would have 2 sons after they married. The eldest, Hans Albert, said Einstein wasn't a good father. And probably the only father he ever gave up on was me. In 1901, eventually, he worked at the Swiss patent office in Bern for 7 years. This job would be a blessing in disguise. It was mentally challenging, and he found that when he was done evaluating patents for the day, he could use the rest of his time to work on scientific research, his real passion. 1905 was Einstein's year of miracles. He wrote 4 papers in a German scientific journal that changed the way we see the universe. I'll try to explain them as simply as possible. Einstein is believed to have said, if you don't understand it well enough. The first was his theory of light. Physicists at the time believed light was a wave, but it didn't make sense that light could create an electric current. Einstein proposed that light was actually made up of a stream of particles called photons, and these photons could knock an electron off an atom to create a current. This is the photoelectric effect. His second paper made a case for the existence of atoms. He observed what seemed like the random movement of particles in water, and reasoned that it's not so random if the water is actually made up of invisible atoms that cause the particles to jiggle. This was called Brownian motion, after the botanist Robert Brown, who had observed the phenomenon earlier. His third and most famous discovery is a special theory of relativity, in which it's impossible to say if two events occurred at the same time if those events are separated in space. A, B, and C all happen at the same time. However, they appear to occur in a different order, depending on the location of the observer. Or let's say someone in London starts running at the same time as someone in New York. They would appear to start running at different times if the observer is on a plane flying between London and New York. Relativity is the basis of the world's most famous formula, E = mc². His fourth paper gave us this equation, which shows how energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. In case you're feeling somewhat intellectually challenged at this point, Einstein once said, "Do not worry about your difficulties in mathematics. I can assure you mine are still greater." So under the right conditions, energy can become mass, and mass can become energy. Here's an example. Take a paperclip. To find out how much energy is inside of it, you'd multiply its mass by the speed of light squared. If you could turn every one of the atoms in this paperclip into pure energy, leaving no mass, then this paperclip will be as powerful as the bomb that destroyed Hiroshima. Indeed, physicists began to consider whether his equation might actually make an atomic bomb possible. As Einstein gained greater prestige, his wife gained more household work. Marge was also passionate about math and science, but gave up her own ambitions to care for their children. There is even some evidence she helped her husband develop some of the concepts in his famous papers. In Einstein's letters to her, he referenced bringing our work on relative motion to a successful conclusion. The papers would transform him from an unknown patent office clerk to a renowned genius. He would go on to teach physics at universities in Prague, Zurich, and Berlin, where he reacquired German citizenship and spent his time during World War I. War, by the way, disgusted him. Although his professional life was going well, his personal life suffered. Einstein would write to his first love, Mary Wintler, whom he met as a teenager. He spilled his heart out to her, saying how much he missed her and how he thought of her whenever he had a free moment. It was perhaps no surprise when he and his wife eventually split up. Marich took the boys to Zurich, while Einstein remained in Berlin. They divorced in 1919, and immediately after, Einstein married his first cousin, Elsa Lowenthal, with whom he had been having an affair for years. He would later end up cheating on Elsa as well. As part of the divorce agreement with Marich, she would receive money from a Nobel Prize if he were to ever win one, and he did in 1921 for his theory of light, not his theory of relativity. There was something about his relativity theory that kept nagging at him because it didn't acknowledge the existence of gravity. So he tinkered with it for 10 years before coming up with his general theory of relativity, which completed the picture. 200 years before Einstein, Sir Isaac Newton provided the world with insight into gravity, but didn't explain how it worked. How is it that the sun pulls on the Earth? Einstein's general theory of relativity says something heavy like the sun causes a warp or a dent in space. The Earth is impacted by the dent and rolls around the sun like a marble rolling in a bowl. In other words, orbits. His theory also suggested that light from another star would be bent by the sun's gravity. If this were true, then starlight passing by the sun would be bent so that we on Earth would think that the apparent location of the star is different than it really is. This theory was considered to be preposterous at the time and could only be proven during a total solar eclipse when the moon blocks out the bright light of the sun. And that's exactly what happened in 1919.
זה לא עוד סרטון, זה החיים שלי, של טובי. ואם אנשים יתעלמו מזה, אז אני פשוט לא אוכל לחיות. אני אשאר ככה. שלום, אני טובי ואני בת 12. זה התחיל לפני שנה שהתחיל לכאוב לי הרגל. ובהמשך זה גם עבר לי לכאבי בטן. אני רק בת 12 ואני מרגישה לפעמים כאילו הכאבים האלה זה כאבים של כאלה שהולכים להיגמר להם החיים. יותר משנה אני עם כאבים נוראים ואני לא יכולה לזוז, לקום. ואין פה לאף רופא פתרון להציע או משהו לעזור כדי שאני אהיה בריאה. בסך הכל רוצה לחיות, אני רוצה לא לצרוח מכאבים. אני רואה ילדות רוקדות, זזות, אני מסתכלת על הרגליים שלהם וזה עושה לי צביטה. אני רוצה שימצאו כבר
English astronomer Sir Arthur Eddington traveled to the coast of... When you think about the greatest inventors of all time, there are a few names that come to mind. Henry Ford, the Wright brothers, Thomas Edison. But there's one name that is not as recognizable. When you plug your phone in, turn on the lights, or use the refrigerator, you have Nikola Tesla to thank. This is the story of the forgotten genius, and the story begins at the end. On January 7, 1927, where she found the body of an 86-year-old who called the hotel home for the past decade, Tesla died alone and broke. He lived off a diet of warm milk and crackers and was obsessed with feeding the pigeons outside. One of the greatest inventors of all time faded into obscurity and died penniless. There is a reason why this happened, which will become clear at the end of this story. Tesla was born in the town of Smilja in present-day Croatia on July 10, 1856. He was born during a lightning storm. According to family legend, the midwife said halfway through the birth, "This child will be a child of darkness," to which his mother replied, "No, he will be a child of light." Little did she know how prophetic those words would be. When Tesla was 5, he witnessed his older brother fall from a horse and later die. This would haunt him for the rest of his life. As a child, he began seeing visions accompanied by flashes of light, confusing what was real and what was imaginary. This never went away. The vision spurred his ability to conceive inventions in his head in such detail that he didn't even need to draw them out. He explained how the designs were perfected in his mind in an article in 1919. Invariably, my device works as I conceived that it should, and the experiment comes out exactly as I planned. In 20 years, there has not been a single exception. Tesla credits his mom for his interest in invention. Juka Mandic invented small household appliances in her spare time. She had an eidetic memory, the ability to recall an image or memory with high precision, and she passed this on to her son. Tesla's father was a priest, too, but Tesla was interested in engineering. When he contracted cancer as a teen and nearly died, his father promised to send him to engineering school if he survived, and miraculously he did. He went to study in Austria at the Technical Faculty, where he said to work from 3 p.m. until 11 p.m. every day. Professors were worried that he would die from exhaustion. Tesla had a beautiful mind. He could perform calculus in his head and spoke 8 languages. He was a good student at the start, but would not finish school. He dropped out after finding out. His friends didn't know what happened to him either. They thought he drowned in a river. Tesla moved around Europe and eventually ended up in Budapest, working as an electrician at a telephone company. While walking around a park in the city one day, he had an epiphany after developing a new way of generating electricity using alternating current. It would be his greatest invention that would change the world. We'll explain more about AC a little later. In 1882, he settled in Paris to work on the first train of Thomas Edison's electric company. He started off installing a component and used his talents in writing, designing and building dynamos and motors. He was soon traveling through directions is crucial to maintaining a steady supply of electricity because it does not overpower outlets. This means it can provide more power and transmit power over longer distances. This is the reason AC powers our homes and other large appliances, whereas DC powers smaller homes. Flashlights didn't care about AC because it could have hurt the sales of direct current since he owned all the patents for DC. According to Tesla, a manager of Edison's company offered him a $50,000 bonus if he could improve some machines that ran on DC. When he did, the manager refused to pay up. Another account of the story has Edison telling Tesla, "You don't understand our American humor." Regardless, he set up to form his own electric company the following year in 1885, but his investors showed little interest and decided to take the company and all of Tesla's patents, which they could do because Tesla had assigned the patents to the company in exchange for stock, which was now worthless. After losing his company, Tesla had to take a job digging ditches for $2 a day just to survive, but his fortunes would change. In 1887, Tesla invented an induction motor that ran on alternating current. The motor was the most efficient way to convert electricity to mechanical power. A version of it powers Tesla's vehicles, which took its name from the inventor. He patented the motor and showed it off the following year at the American Institute of Electrical Engineers. That caught the attention of George Westinghouse, a major player in the electric market who realized Tesla's AC motor might just be what he needed to complete his alternating current system and compete against Edison's DC system. So Tesla licensed the patents for the AC motor to Westinghouse for $60,000 and also received stock and royalties. Westinghouse hired him as a consultant for $2,000 a month, which is the equivalent of over $50,000 a month today. The War of the Currents began. Edison tried hard to discredit Westinghouse and Tesla. He seemed to provide an electric chair that used alternating current to prove how dangerous AC was. Edison's company also publicly tortured him. In 1903, the electric chemical surface element named toxin and produced a film about it called WolfensteinTNO. Despite Edison's schemes, good things were happening for Westinghouse and Tesla. They underpaid Edison and his newly formed company, General Electric, to illuminate the world's Columbian Exposition in Chicago in 1893. The first all-electric fair celebrated the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus's discovery of America. Their success continued when they beat out Edison's General Electric again to build the world's first alternating current power plant in Niagara Falls. The hydroelectric power station was a massive success and helped light up Buffalo, New York. The building of the plant also meant Tesla became a pioneer in renewable energy. His statue can be found at Niagara Falls. Westinghouse and Tesla won the war of the currents, and direct current was being phased out. But there were problems. Westinghouse's company was running out of money and eventually went $10 million into debt. In 1897, he went to Tesla and asked if his royalties could be reduced in a desperate attempt to save the company. Tesla was so compelled by the passion of his friend that he ripped up his contract. He was grateful to Westinghouse for believing in him when no one else would. Tesla, which in today's terms was worth over $300 million. He held onto those royalties over time. He would have likely become a wealthy planet, and the first person they really saw his worth. That act $16,000 for the rights to use his AC patents forever. This was his period of many inventions. He held over 300 patents in his lifetime. He created an early version of the neon light, the Tesla turbine, a painted turbine with heat. He pioneered X-ray technology by experimenting with radiation. He set X-ray with his own hand. Another standout and sued Marconi. The case dragged on in court for years and was only settled just 6 years after his death. That radio incident negatively impacted the rest of Tesla's career. For example, Tesla was obsessed with wireless station in Long Island, New York, called Wolfenstein Tower. He imagined a world where he could stop and receive he was again well ahead of his time. Financial backers beginning in 1940. Western News Corporation hired him to consult rent-free, but died in death. You could say Tesla was an architect when the fire burned down the New York Tower. He made he wanted to Tesla's mother called him a child of light, and she was quite right.
Thanks so much for watching the story of Nikola Tesla. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Cindy Pong. If you like what you saw, subscribe to my new channel. I also started a Patreon where you can make a monthly contribution, and this will go a really long way toward helping my channel grow. See you soon.
Хуйло! Вот хуйло! Конец тебе! Вали! А! Давай, мочи! Пиздец, мраки ебаные! Атака! Что за... Где ты?